my name is Tara. So I just wanted to share a little bit of my story. I grew up in church my whole life. My family was amazing. Like, I would describe my childhood as like the golden childhood. Like, felt so loved, it was so fun, like just big dreamer, did all kinds of stuff. And then I grew up like in a non-denominational church and private school. Always knew God was real, never doubted that. I just felt his presence, like he would speak to me, he was just so present in my life. But then when I got into high school, that's when I switched to public school, and that's kind of when things started to change a little bit. So my parents my dad left my mom, and he actually ended up going a little bit, kind of leaving the faith. Like, he had first left our church for a little while, and we kind of were like, oh, it's fine, he'll come back. Well, he didn't end up coming back, and he kind of went off, like, spiraled and started to believe into like all kinds of stuff. He didn't know if Jesus actually ever walked on the earth, and it was kind of crazy. He would say things to me and my brother, and we'd be like, is this guy even, what's he even saying? We were just so confused. And then he ended up leaving my mom, and that whole process was just so, heartbreaking for me, because we were such a close-knit family, and I thought, like, I would have never thought that was going to happen. And so at that point I just became, very depressed, very just kind of lost and broken, because my dad and I had such a strong bond. So I ended up, long story short, getting into a relationship towards, or a little bit after that time, because I was so in need of that fathering. I needed love, but I wasn't receiving that from him, because I had cut him out of my life because I was so upset with him. I had cut him out. So I started this relationship, and he became my best friend, my boyfriend, like almost like a father to me. It was just so unhealthy. And, I just got into, like, you would say, like, oh, we were in love, but it was just in need. And so it quickly just got so unhealthy, and he started like just pushing for more and more things, and he was not a believer in Jesus at all. And I had no idea what my identity was. Like, I knew God, but I did not know the cross. I didn't know what Jesus did, what he paid for. So I had like kind of no power to walk in. I had no identity to walk in. So I was just kind of flailing about. So anyways, throughout this relationship, we start going to college together, and I just knew my spiritual life just kind of like plummeted. Like, I was not seeking the Lord anymore. I wasn't reading my Bible. I was just consumed in this relationship, and I was starving. I was full on starving. And it got to the point where it was so unhealthy, and we started just going down this path of like immorality, and it literally felt like I was dying inside, and I just honestly couldn't take it anymore. So it got to a day where the Lord said, he spoke so clearly to me. And mind you, I'm not really fellowshipping with the Lord at this time. I'm not really seeking him. I'm kind of just whatever. And I hear the Lord say, Tara, you either get out now, get out of this relationship right now, or you will marry this man and you will get divorced. And that was like a rude awakening for me, because the Lord knows what he has to say to you to get you out, because he wants to rescue you. And so from then on, I told him, I got to get out now. And I left that relationship. And after that, I had no friends. Like, I barely was spending time with my family, because this guy had just so consumed my life, and he was kind of like controlled that part. So I had to basically start from scratch. So I remember just driving with the Lord, and I would just like cry out for his help, because I would get these suicidal thoughts of driving my car off the side of the road, just all kinds of crazy stuff. But the Lord was so present with me, and I would just do what I knew how to do. Like, okay, I'm gonna read a psalm a day. I'm gonna read, a little bit of Matthew. I'm just gonna do what I can to seek the Lord. And I was just hungry. So long story short, I ended up going to Baylor, which is when I left Seattle, Washington. And it was like my dream school. I get there, and I had built relationship with my dad again, because I missed that bond. And I felt the Lord drawing our hearts back together, back to that relationship. So even though he was kind of all over the place with his faith, I wanted that relationship with my dad, because I loved him so much. So we were building that up again. And so while I was in Texas, he calls me and he goes, Tara, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but I have cancer, and they're telling me I have 2 months to live. And that, what do you do with that news? I was like so broken, because I was thriving at Baylor. I was going to a church. I was just like seeking the Lord every morning. I was reading my Bible. And then I get this crushing news of, oh my gosh, my dad's gonna die. And so, but I was full of faith. I was like, you know what, God's gonna heal him. So I immediately went home and just was taking care of him as much as I possibly could. So I was spending, all my time with him, just praying over him. And I knew, I was like, you know what, you're gonna get well. Jesus is gonna heal you. And my dad and I just totally, in that 2 months of time, we just totally got restored back in relationship. My dad kept progressing, just kind of declining in his health. But as far as his spirituality, like, he was connecting with the Lord again. He was he was coming back to his original faith, because he was an atheist when he was in his 20s, and then he came to the Lord. So he was like, you know what, Tara, I know Jesus is real. I know he's king. I know that he died for me. You know what, I believe in him again. So he came completely restored back to his faith, and our relationship was completely restored. And like, there's nothing that I didn't say to my dad. Like, I was so gifted with that time with him, and he ended up passing away. Well, when that stuff tries to happen, like when trials come your way, you start to think like, oh my gosh, who can I blame for this? So I wanted to blame God because he didn't heal my dad the way I wanted him to. So I started blaming God, and I remember he died the 2 days after Christmas, about 3 years ago, and the New Year's Eve, I like physically turned my back. I was like, I'm done with you. Like, you killed my dad. And I heard God say, he's like, Tara, I did not kill your dad, and you know I didn't kill your dad. Tara, I love you, and I will always be with you. I was with you the entire time, and I knew that my dad was with him. I knew it so strongly, and there was such a deep peace that I'm going to see him again. And so anyways, I wanted to run away from the Lord, but he was just like, you can't run away from the truth. Like, he chases you down. He's God, and he is the way, the truth, and the life. So I couldn't run anywhere. I couldn't go anywhere. So from that process, I moved back to Texas and lived with a family, this amazing family, and they just discipled me. They took me into their home and just, poured the love of Jesus in me. And then that's when I really just got hungry for the Lord. I'm like, okay, you're it, because I've tried everything else. I've tried drinking, I've tried guys, whatever. It doesn't really do anything for me, so I need the Lord. And then long story short, I go on a study abroad trip to Australia, and at this point, I'm just like going after him. I'm seeking him in my room. I'm praying. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, no one really trained me on this, but I knew I just want to know him. I'm going to pray. I'm going to read. I'm just going to do what I can to know you. And that's when I stumbled upon videos about Todd White, and this guy's healing the sick. He's like living out the gospel, and I'm like, I've never seen anyone share their faith ever in public outside of a church. Never. That was such a new thing. I didn't even know what an evangelist was. And so from then, my spirit just knew that this is for me. Like, this is for every believer, that I can go out and just be like Jesus on this earth, like be his hands and feet, and he can live his life in me. And so I just felt so confident I needed to pray for people, but I was like bound with fear my entire life. I had so much insecurity. But nevertheless, I still stepped out, and this girl on my soccer team, she had twisted her ankle really bad, and I'm like, I gotta pray for you. You're gonna get healed right now. And I didn't know she was an unbeliever. Anyways, I pray for her. Her ankle gets healed. And later on, I did not know any of this, but she contacts my coach, and she's like, who is that girl? I've never heard of Jesus, but like, I want to know him because like this girl prayed for me. So anyways, she got touched, and from then on, I'm like, this is real. I'm going after him. And I kept seeking the Lord, and that's when he told me to come to Texas and come to Lifestyle Christianity. And I rebelled against that for a couple months. I kind of tossed and turned with that for like the whole summer. I was like, I don't want to do this. I was in my last year of university. But I knew that I had to go, because he said to me, Tara, if you go, this will change your life. You will be on a completely different path, like different trajectory of your life. And I've come, and since then I've just grown so much, and just like knowing who Jesus is, knowing what he paid for me, the free gifts that he's given me, like his righteousness, and just fellowshipping with him every single day, and just talking to him like he's my best friend, that he's my source, that he's my everything. And I've just grown. And the first prayer I had when I moved here, I remember walking up to someone, and I was like shaking. I'm like, can you pray for me? And they're like, what do you want prayer for? I'm like, I need you to pray that I'm not fearful, that I'm not afraid. And he just looked at me like, oh, don't even worry, like God's gonna take that out of you. And that's one of the biggest things, like since coming here and just knowing the Lord better, he's so removed like fear from my life and insecurity, and just knowing him. So Jesus, thank you so much for everyone watching. Thank you for what you've done in my life, that you've just been so present. Thank you. I just feel like the goodness of God has been so on my life. Like, I never want to forget the goodness of God, because there's so many things that could have happened to me, so many paths I could have gone down, but I didn't, because of his goodness, because of his grace and his love and mercy for me. Like, he chased me down. And I just pray, God, that you would chase these people down, that they would have encounters with you, that they would just have this hunger. And it says, seek the Lord with all your heart and you will see me. So I just pray that these people would seek the Lord with their entire heart, God. They would seek your face. And God, I just pray that you would renew their lamp of their first love. In Jesus' name.